just a few days, I'm going to be taking this across the country for a week, and I want to share with you what's going to be in my camera bag. Well, hey there, if you don't know who I am, my name is Tony and I'm a filmmaker and photographer based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And like I said, in the next few days I'm going to be heading out for a huge motorcycle trip. One of the things I love about being on a motorcycle is you have to be creative with how you pack. So we're going to be camping in the mountains, so I'm going to need my tent, my rain gear, all of that fun stuff, along with everything that I want to create content. So I get to creatively figure out a way to pack and choose what kind of gear I need to bring with me. So I figured it'd be fun to do a little video and explain kind of what I am gonna be bringing with me and why I chose that gear. So let's get into it. Typically my go-to bag every day is the Peak Design 30-liter backpack. I use this bag for work every day, but because I'm gonna be on a bike, it's just not practical for me to take such a big bag. So I'm going to be taking with me the Peak Design 10-liter sling, which fits perfectly in one of my side saddlebags on my motorcycle. It slips right in, it's waterproof, and that way I know that we won't have any trouble at all. The bag itself is weather sealed as well, so we should be good with rain if for some reason I get caught in downpour. Another great thing about this bag is the way that it looks. It's nice and sleek, and I've had this bag for about a year, and I use it I don't know, maybe 25% of the time, and it still looks brand new. The inside still is holding up really well, and there's lots of pockets for organization. Another thing I really like about these bags, and my 30-liter backpack has this too, but it has little markings so that you can see which batteries are good and which ones are not. So if you haven't heard of Peak Design, make sure to check them out. I've got lots of Peak Design gear and it holds up so well. All right, let's talk about cameras. Cameras is a simple way for me to scale down my entire gear pack depending on what camera I choose. My main camera, the camera that I carry with me every day, is the Canon EOS 80D. I love that camera, even though it's a crop sensor. A few things that I really love about crop sensor cameras, especially Canons, is the size of their lenses. You can pick up some EFS lenses that are so much smaller than the L series glass, which is great glass, but you can still get pro quality with some of these smaller EFS lenses. So I'm gonna be taking with me my 80D, and that's gonna be my primary camera. The only other physical camera that I'm gonna be taking is my iPhone 10. And this is one that I'll have with me all the time. I'll use it sparingly. Most of the time my primary camera will be the DSLR, but the iPhone 10 does take decent photos with good lighting and for specific uses. Another camera that I'm going to be taking with me is my DJI Mavic Air, which is a drone, but its sole purpose is just for taking pictures and video. So I love the Mavic Air. It's tiny, it's small, it packs up even smaller than the Mavic Pro. And I love some of the features that they added onto the Mavic Air that we didn't see in the Mavic Pro that makes packing even smaller. A good example of this is the little knobs on the controller. Man, why did it take them so many generations to come out with that feature? Take the knobs off and stick them inside the controller. Perfect, I love that. It really condenses the size and makes it possible for me to take a drone when I'm on a motorcycle. I love it. Obviously the quality isn't quite as good as a Phantom or Inspire, but to be able to just shove it into my pocket really and be able to just fly that thing up in the mountains is going to be perfect. I'm not too worried about the Wi-Fi connection. Every time I've been in Colorado with my drone, birds have been a bigger problem than the Wi-Fi connection. Also, I may throw in a GoPro somewhere on my bike. That way I have it just in case I want to get a creative angle. I have a bunch of different places I can mount it on my bike to get some unique angles and different perspectives. All right, let's talk about lenses. I would love to take a 70 to 200 with me, an 85 f1.4 IS, all of those amazing lenses, a 16 to 35, but the reality is I just do not have space for it. But I do have a philosophy. I usually take about 3 lenses with me on any trip that I'm at. I'll take an ultra wide lens, I'll take a telephoto lens, and then some sort of prime. And those kind of get me all the focal ranges that I would ever need on a trip. So for this one, first lens is going to be the 10 to 18 millimeter STM. This lens is pretty sharp. It's not bad. It's super light and doesn't take up much space compared to the 16 to 35. I mean, it makes no sense to take that. This lens is tiny and it produces some great results. Here's a picture. I love this lens. As far as my telephoto lens, I'm gonna be using the 55 to 250. And I was playing around with this lens again at the zoo this weekend, and man, it just takes amazing photos for the price and the size of this lens. Plus, it reaches farther than the 70 to 200, but most of the time I don't ever really see that difference. Obviously, the low light with the aperture that goes, what is it, 3.5 to, oh no, it's 4 to 5.6. So that doesn't get really good for low light, but most of the time I'm gonna be shooting during the day, and you can still get some decent bokeh with this lens. 55 to 250. It's way smaller than the 70 to 200 that I'm used to carrying around with me. And then for my prime, I'm gonna go with the 24 millimeter f2.8 IS. And the reason I'm going with this lens is it's image stabilized, so it's perfect for video. And with a crop sensor, it gives me that 35 millimeter range that I can use, kind of that everyone loves. If I could take one extra lens with me, if I could squeeze just a little bit more space out of my camera bag, which I don't think I'll be able to, because this year I'm taking the drone and a couple other things, I would love to take with me the 100 millimeter f2.8 LIS macro. Man, that lens is just amazing. I shot most of that motorcycle sequence at the beginning of the video with that lens, and just has amazing results, even if you're not using it for macro. So if I could take a 4th lens, I don't think I'll be able to. That's the one I would choose. As far as audio goes for this trip, I like to use a lot of natural raw audio out of the camera, but for most of the time I will have a Rode Video Micro on my camera. And the thing is 60 bucks and it sounds just as good as any of the other ones, I think. If you're gonna get any farther than about 3 feet away from the camera, you need to either use a lapel or boom mic or some other way to capture audio. But for most of what we'll be doing on this trip, the Rode Video Micro will work just right. So that is all I'm taking as far as audio, but I will use like the natural audio on my iPhone. If I need to catch a quick sound or something, I'll use that. And then if I don't happen to get the Rode on my ADD, I'll still use the audio for that too. So last year I took the same Peak Design 10-liter sling backpack with me that fit all of my gear, including a 13-inch MacBook Pro and LaCie hard drive to back up all of my data as I was going along. Every evening I like to back up everything and make sure that it's all categorized and foldered, and so I had to bring a laptop with me to be able to do that. This year I picked up one of these new LaCie hard drives that just came out. They teamed up with DJI, and it's really cool. It has a built-in lightning cable, and it also has a SD card slot so that you can just go ahead and back up on the fly. It has a built-in battery pack, so you could essentially charge your phone from that, but I probably won't be doing that. What's cool about this is I can plug my iPad into this drive, and in the field without any power, I can back up my SD cards from my camera, from my drone, from the GoPros, all of that right onto this LaCie hard drive without a computer, which for me, on this kind of a trip, is the perfect use for this hard drive. In fact, even if I wanted to do some light editing in Lightroom, Mobile CC, whatever it's called these days, I can do that on this hard drive through my iPad, which is pretty awesome that I don't have to bring an entire laptop with me to be able to do some simple editing. So what I'll probably end up doing is every night I'll download all of my data onto the hard drive and then maybe make up an image or two for Instagram, and that will be it. Pretty simple. I'm a big believer in the SanDisk Extreme Pro cards. That's pretty much all I use. I use it for my camera. I also use it for my drone. I use 32 gigs. That usually lasts me most of the day for all of my devices. I do have a couple backups just in case one goes down, but they're all that SanDisk Extreme Pros. That's what kind of data I use. All right, let's talk about support and stabilization. If you don't have good support, you're gonna have shaky footage. I know some people can handheld their cameras, but I just choose not to do that. I don't wanna get back to my big iMac and realize that it's just unusable even with warp stabilization. So there's a couple ways that I will take care of shaky footage right off the bat. One of which is to just use a camera strap. I've got a Peak Design slide. It's been hanging out in my bag for years. This thing looks brand new. I don't understand how this stuff holds up so well when I use it for shoots daily. But anyways, I use this, I kind of put it on my neck, push it forward, and get that whole stable cheater feel. And it works for the most part if I'm shooting slow-mo. Other than that, I have, for my iPhone, I use this Rockform case. And this has a mount on the back. It also has a magnet, so I can stick this magnet to whatever, if it's a bridge or whatever the metal, I can stick it to. But then it has this mount here that I can use for a couple different things. One, I use it for a motorcycle mount on my handlebars, so it just clips right on there, and then I can just put it right around the bar. I can put this on all sorts of different bars, but I use this to stabilize my iPhone footage a lot. Then I also have the same thing for this cool little, it's got the same thing, but it mounts on a tripod. So that works out really well. And I'll use that for time lapses, for whatever, second angles, whatever. Speaking of tripods, I have a Manfrotto Be-Free travel tripod, which folds up really nice and compact. And I really like that tripod. It's held up pretty well. It still squeaks a lot. We were in the desert this spring. Got tons of sand in it, but it's part of the memory. So it's still working pretty good, and that will probably find its way on the bike. I'll have to bring that tripod with me just so I can use it for just random things that you need tripods for. The only other part of support that I have is I've got the Peak Design Capture. I use that, which is just a capture clip, and then I use the Pro Pad underneath, and that will mount on my belt, and then this will mount on the camera. And that quick release plate just kind of lives on my ADD, and it's completely compatible with the Manfrotto RC2 quick release, which is smaller than the 501PL. So I really like that smaller square quick release plate. And that just kind of stays on my ADD, and I can switch between things relatively fast that way. Other than that, the only thing I'm gonna be taking with me is a couple little accessories, one of which is a battery charger for my, my E6 batteries. This guy I picked up on Amazon for 20 bucks with 2 batteries. It's a USB charger, so I don't need to bring around that big brick that came with my camera. I can charge 2 at once with a USB charger. So I'll just have a big block of power that I'll use to charge my batteries, charge my GoPro, all of that stuff, my Apple Watch, and I'll be good on power for the most part. During the day, I usually plug my phone right into my bike, so it almost always has a full charge. Another really important accessory that I'm gonna bring with me is a Tiffin variable ND filter. You twist this thing and it gets darker or lighter, depending on what you need for exposure. So it's perfect for video. You can leave your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO alone and use this for exposure then. So that works out really well. And I'm only taking one with me because I'm gonna bring step-up rings. Step-up rings are these tiny little rings that fit on the outside of your lens to step up to the next size. And so I'm gonna bring a couple. I'm bringing the biggest one that I have. It's a 77 millimeter. Fits on like a 70 to 200, the 85 f1.4, the 24 to 105, all of the big L lenses, except for the 16 to 35. The 77 mil will fit on it. But I chose to buy this one and then buy step-up rings instead of buying a 58 and a 67 mil and all of the different sizes. You just buy one variable ND filter and a bunch of step-up rings, and you're good to go. So that won't take up much space in my bag, but it's a very essential piece of gear when you're talking about video. Other than that, the only thing I'm planning on bringing with me is a couple business cards. I love to take photos of people that I see out with, especially with cameras, because I know that they value having good photos. And so I'll take pictures of them and then I'll give them one of my business cards that has my Instagram and it has my website and all of that kind of stuff, so that they can hunt me down and I say, hey, send me a message on Instagram and I'll hook you up with the pictures for free. And that's a great way for exposure and for me to get to know other photographers and filmmakers. And I highly encourage you, if you don't have any business cards, even if it just has your Instagram on it, get some business cards. They're 10 bucks and just keep them in your travel bag. It's perfect. All right, that's about all the gear that I'm gonna be bringing with me on this trip. What I love is that it pretty much all slips right into that 10-liter sling and then goes right into my saddlebag. I don't have to worry about where gear is. I don't have to worry about the wind or the rain. And I know that I'm gonna have plenty of things to be able to use to create when I'm on this trip. If this is a video that you liked, I encourage you to like it, subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's something specific you would like me to make a video on, comment in the comments below so that I have an idea what you would like to see. Other than that, wish me luck. I head out in a few days, and other than that, let's do this.